CX Fruit Cove, WBOB.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks.
I'm Emily Hicks, and you're listening to the Elder Law Hour, where we're offering insights and solutions for today's seniors so you can age with confidence. Are you one of the 20 million unmarried Americans that are age 65 and older? Well, Pew Research estimates that 27% of adults 60 and older live alone, and they are often referred to as elder orphans or solo seniors. Now, we all know the world is designed for couples, so navigating retirement alone can be a little bit daunting, so we have some tips for you on how to retire confidently and enjoy your solo life. And the first tip is a personalized retirement plan. So creating a detailed retirement plan tailored to your needs rather than relying on the generic rules. You will also want to choose reliable people to execute your wishes for your estate plan, and that is being named executor of your will or successor trustee of your trust, and also as power of attorney and healthcare surrogate. So make sure you have someone reliable that you can trust, maybe perhaps a friend or a trusted family member. And then another tip is overcoming financial insecurity. So if you have financial anxieties, start working with an expert to create a long-term budget for yourself. Maintaining a schedule is also a tip that is offered. Establishing a routine to combat the decline often associated with retirement. So engaging in activities like yoga, volunteer work, or daily walks to stay active. And then adapting after retirement. Be open to learning new responsibilities if you have become single after retirement. Consider adopting a pet. I have 2 pets of my own, and I love this one. Enjoy the emotional and health benefits of pet ownership, even unconventional ones like hamsters or turtles. And I have a dog and a cat, so I can't really get on board with a hamster or a gerbil or any of those types of things, but I could probably handle a turtle. The next tip is cultivating a support network, and that's developing a buddy system with friends or neighbors for emotional and practical support so that you have someone looking out for you and looking out for your home if you're traveling. Staying social, prioritizing social interactions will contribute to better mental and physical health. Avoiding emotional loneliness. And this is an issue that really affects a lot of people as they get older, and that's combating loneliness and making sure that you've established regular communication with your friends and family. Thinking carefully about where you live. So as we know, we have a lot of various housing options these days. So you may want to consider factors like living abroad, or maybe you want to live in a more walkable community, or have a roommate, or move to a retirement community. And then we've even talked about tiny houses on this show. So there's a lot of different types of places that you could consider moving to during your retirement. Social Security claiming strategy. So understand how divorce or widowhood can affect your Social Security benefits. Prioritizing your heart health. Single adults are more prone to heart disease, so focus on your regular checkups and your healthy lifestyle. Identifying financial and health proxies. So planning for someone to speak on your behalf in financial and health matters with your estate plan. This is crucial. We touched on this earlier, but just making sure that you have someone that you trust. So if you are incapacitated and unable to speak for yourself, that person can come in, pay the bills, make healthcare decisions for you according to what your wishes are. And then the next one is defining a long-term care plan. And I talk about this all the time. Plan for the possibility of long-term care and how you're going to fund that, because it is quite expensive, but there are always ways that we can, put a plan in place together so that we can mitigate some of those expenses, but earlier rather than later is always best. And seeking support. So if you, the recommendation is to join online groups for senior singles, or start local clubs to build a supportive community. If you are joining one of those online groups, just be careful who you're talking to, because we also talk about a lot of fraud and things like that on the show, and just beware of who you're actually chatting with if you are online. And then regular check-ins, establishing a contact person for regular check-ins related to your health concerns. Investing in an alert system. So there are all kinds of cool technologies out there nowadays, and consider using an alert system for emergencies if you are living alone. And then don't give up on travel. That's our last tip here. Embracing adventure and travel, and you can do that by joining a group or creating your own travel plans. Could be a great way to spend your time in retirement. So I hope these tips have been helpful for you as you approach your retirement, so you can do so confidently with both physical and emotional well-being. We've got a great show for you today. Charles Taverna is back. He is a CPA. We're talking about gift tax and how that works, and the best way to inherit property and the best way to inherit retirement accounts. And then Jim Kowalski is back. We are talking about elder scams in Florida, how to qualify for legal aid, and also how elders are being scammed these days, and how important it is to avoid being the victim of one of these scams that are going on today. Then we've got Sheriff Hardwick back from St. Johns County. He is speaking about elder safety in St. Johns County and how they are able to track down a loved one if necessary using a scent kit that they provide for free. So stick around. We will be right back. Welcome back to the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks, and I'm very lucky to be here with Sheriff Hardwick, our Sheriff of St. Johns County today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Emily, thank you for having me on, and I appreciate it, and looking forward to your questions today.
Well, today I would like to talk a little bit about a tricky subject, which is when I'm sure you guys get some calls about maybe some shoplifting incidents or some traffic incidents involving seniors. And I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the safety aspects of that, but also, when you're dealing with someone who has dementia, okay, Alzheimer's or any of the types of dementia, do you guys have a protocol for that? Let's say someone, you see these alerts that happen on the news, and let's just say someone was on the street, maybe wandering around. How do you guys handle something like that?
So first of all, we come a long, long ways. And when I started this profession 30 years ago, we seriously were so, and I'll say myself, we're so ignorant to the resources. We really didn't have a lot of resources, and we didn't really know what a person with Alzheimer's, what a person on the spectrum meant, or what a person with dementia meant. So I think we've come a long, long ways, meaning that now our deputy sheriffs are trained. Of course, we have specialized classes. We have our own training division internally here. But one thing we've done too with modern technology is we can actually flag, let's just use the name Al Smith, just as a random name. Let's say Al Smith is here in St. Johns County. We've had contact with him before. This is non-criminal stuff, by the way. We just happen to have contact with him in a local grocery store. And we noticed that, he has dementia or Alzheimer's, and he tends to wander or doesn't know where his surroundings are. So we can flag them in the system. And what happens in the system when we flag them? So let's say we run into Al Smith again next week. He's in the system. We try to find an emergency contact number for him. But also, too, we try to get resources for them. So, again, we have basically, when you call our 911 center, whether it's an emergency or non-emergency, there's so many resources in there, whether they're for-profit or not-for-profit. I mean, we have a lot of places that we can go and services we can provide. We additionally have some in-house services we have through the Safe Track program. So let's say you have a loved one or a neighbor or someone that that has some type of illness, or just simply aging and their memory loss is a problem. We can track them through GPS if they are part of the Safe Track program. So again, just a lot of things. We're also doing the scent kits. The scent kits are not just for missing children. Our bloodhounds can smell any scent of a living person. So we're doing the scent kits as well, where we give you a scent kit and we actually have you do some type of, whether it be a clothing item or it does some type of buccal swab, where you're doing basically a swab of their mouth. And then it's actually frozen and it's contained. And then that way, let's say you lose a loved one that's wandered off or you can't find them, we can use that scent kit with our bloodhounds. We have 2 bloodhounds, Star and Daisy May. So they're very successful at tracking people and finding people. So also to our helicopter unit, I can't tell you how many times our helicopter unit, because sometimes people get out of the area and they physically are gone for more than a couple hours. So they go into the darkness. Our helicopters are actually equipped with night vision systems and, of course, infrared systems and, of course, heat systems, too, as well, trying to find that heat source maybe of a person that's wandered. So I think we've come a long, long ways. With that being said, don't ever be hesitant to call the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office. If you're not sure of our non-emergency number, which is the 824-8304, then of course you can call 911. But the goal is to get them home safely and quickly as possible. And again, us continuing to go ahead and as we continue to be law enforcement here in St. Johns County, be ahead of what they're doing across the nation. And that way we get to provide these services to your loved ones, our loved ones.
Yeah, it's a hard, just communicating with somebody that has one of dementing disease is difficult, because it's hard to know, when you guys, it's your daily job. You're walking up on people. You really don't know who you're coming up upon.
I think that's the part, is that, we're in this generation now, where we really have to learn to de-escalate. We got to use our mouth. We got to use a little bit of common sense and our five senses of just watching people, understanding people, and seeing what normal cognitive skills would be or responses are to questions, and kind of, dissecting that, triaging it a little bit and making that decision, as opposed to when I started 30 years ago, everybody went to jail. Just being honest. We didn't know what to do with them. And now with our not-for-profit partnerships here in St. Johns County, we have amazing people that actually answer the phone after hours. We have amazing people. We're doing a brand new initiative here in the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office called the Co-Responder Program. We started about less than 2 months ago. We are going to have, I'm so excited, we're going to have a licensed clinical social worker sitting side by side with our deputy sheriffs. We have two shifts, basically. Alpha Bravo is your day shift and your night shift, and then Charlie Delta would be your day shift and your night shift, opposite of the Alpha Bravo. We are going to have units on both those shifts that are going to be able to respond. So a licensed clinical social worker that knows all these resources, our deputy sheriff driving the car, and us being able to provide better resources for our community. And hopefully we can identify these people and get them the proper help and care and keep them safe.
Oh, wow. That sounds extremely helpful to have. What a great program. I've heard the two statistics when you're dealing with seniors and crime. Let's say it's kind of funny to think about, but I've heard that the top two things that the elderly get in trouble for, let's say, are shoplifting and traffic infractions. Is that your experience?
I would say you're pretty close to that. We have, as we have a very large elderly community here in St. Johns County. And unfortunately, they fall victim to a lot of things, as the scams, which I'm sure you'll ask in a minute. But the other thing, too, we noticed that, of course, they're driving. And one thing we talk about, like my mother, she's 80, she's going to be 81 this coming year. And if you take her freedom is that car, and you take away that last piece of freedom they have, it's almost a mental game with them. It's almost mental, a debilitator for them. So that being said, some people are a little hesitant to call and reach out to the DHSMV, Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles. They can do the online medical referral form, which is anonymous, but also too, any physician or family member can reach out to DHSMV and actually have them do testing on an elderly person that's a family member per se. So there's some mechanisms in place though, but yes, driving infractions, of course. And I think, we talk about the elderly, I'm not sure especially they've been here, let's just say they've been here their whole lives in St. Johns County. I think they think it's back in the 1980s when there was like 45,000 of us here, and now they don't know there's 300,000 of us here. So it's a little
Right.
bit, they're very impatient. I am too, though. So I guess I'm getting elder too.
Yeah,
as well.
me too.
Probably impatient. But yeah, so the theft thing is a little funny. So I'll share a quick story. I was actually in my Publix, which is over on Anastasia Island, and the manager actually summoned me and said, "Hey, I think a lady just stole some sardines in certain aisle, whatever it was." I said, "Okay." So I was in plain clothes, and of course, everybody on the beach knows who I am. I was the chief there before. So I walked down the aisle and I saw the lady there. She must have been 90 and some change. She looked great. So I approached her. I said, "Ma'am," I said, and she's like, "Oh, Sheriff, And I said, "How are you doing?" I said, she had put our sardines in her purse. I don't know if she was stealing them or not, but she simply says, "I'm not going to carry them in my hand. That's stupid. I'm going to put them in my purse. It's like a bag." So I didn't argue it. Of course, she went up there and she said, "I always pay for them." And she kind of took some jabs at the manager. But, it's kind of funny we say that, I think just with memory loss alone, we forget things. And I think that's important for our deputy sheriffs and law enforcement when they respond. They're going through all those five senses, the basic, senses and saying, "Hey, is this person truly a thief? Are they stealing? Or is it simply just them making a mistake based on their age or some mentality issues that are going on, or who knows, maybe even a substance abuse problem going on too as well." So just got to do a better job, us deputy sheriffs, at kind of walking through the steps and not everybody's a thief. Everybody's going to jail. When you come to my jail, it's $141 a day. So that's what an average inmate in my jail is. So as a taxpayer, the two of us can figure out $141 a day. If you're in there for a year, it's a lot of money. So let's not bring a person that's 90 years old, for goodness sakes, that made a mistake and stole some sardines out of Publix. Maybe we do a notice to appear and let the judge handle it.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Yeah, I can't imagine seeing Granny in jail for that when she maybe just forgot to pay for them, or who knows. Let's say that grandma needs to stop driving, or mom needs to stop driving. Everybody knows it. I know that you guys probably see this a lot with a lot of accidents that could have been, probably prevented had someone, but the process of taking someone's license away, I mean, it's a really, like you said, you're taking their freedom. It's a really hard thing for people to accept, to stop driving, because also that's very isolating to them, and they're going to be dependent on others for transportation and visiting and things like that. I mean, you're just relying on someone to come visit you, and that's got to be a really difficult, place to be if you don't feel, comfortable with that. But, what is that? So again, like, what is that process like? If I have a grandma who really should not be driving, I can call in anonymously and sort of I hate to say report her, but
it sounds horrible. Something doing something wrong. Yeah. So there's a couple of ways we can do it. Actually, law enforcement can do it too as well. So, a physician can do it. Actually anybody can do it and request, of course, this retake or re-exam or basically an evaluation process. So you'll see some of our law enforcement deputy sheriffs fill out the form if they have somebody that's just totally just dangerous driving. We see a lot of medical conditions in the elderly, that they go through some type of medical episode in the car where they're driving. But a lot of it too is just, so we can fill that form out if we feel like the person just needs to be reevaluated. But there's two ways to do it. Of course, you can fill the form out, or you can do that medical referral form online. So if you go to Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles and actually, or just Google, the medical referral form for DHSMV for Florida, and then it refers you to that page and you can send it in. It's confidential. You remain anonymous. And then, of course, it kind of puts it in the hands of the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicle to make that decision. That person should not be driving anymore. I hear this all the time, Emily, too, when people say, I had to take my mom's car away. I'm like, oh my goodness. I am dreading that day when my sisters and my brother take my mom's car away, because it's going to be rough on the old Hardwick family. Because you said it's independency, and that they don't know any different. And they grew up in a different time frame than us, but that's what their independence in life is that car. So again, just one of those things that it's the necessary evil. Next thing you know, they're in a traffic crash where they ran a red light and they killed some innocent family just because they shouldn't have been driving a car.
I grew up in a very small town where, back in the 80s and 90s, it wasn't, I'm not going to say it was different. It was just different. There was this old man that would drive around and he had a standing account with the mechanic, with the car repair place, every month. And he's hit somebody else. Who's he hit now? And luckily he didn't really hurt anybody, but it's really bad. It could have been so much worse, but things were handled differently back then. And now especially in St. Johns County and in Jacksonville, the population has just increased just exponentially in the past few years. So with that comes a lot more precaution, a lot more safety and regulation, which I can understand they don't really appreciate.
Someone's going to hold them accountable, unfortunately, and I hate to be the bad guy with this, with being law enforcement. We don't get a whole lot of them, I'll be honest with you. If it's to that point, usually a family will contact HSMV themselves, or they just take the car. They just basically make it miserable for them to drive, where there's no car in the driveway or something like that. So it's just too bad, because we'll all be there. I'm way older than you, but we will be there one day, and you'll take my freedom away and I'll probably still get a vehicle somewhere.
Well, who knows? We may just be, according to Elon Musk, we might just hop into a vehicle and tell it where to go. Seriously. And, who knows what we'll be doing, right?
Absolutely.
It's kind of scary, actually. That's a whole other, another realm of scary. Yeah, I worry a lot about the kids driving and texting. But, I see it's not just the children, not just the young people that are texting and driving. It's everybody.
Yes. My mom is on social media. She's 81 years old. What has happened in this country? It's funny. I have to really, these communities like Silverleaf, Nocatee, where they may take the independence away from the adult or the elderly with the vehicle, but you watch these golf carts going on everywhere. They kind of gain their independence back a little bit. So we went to a Veterans Day ceremony last weekend at Del Webb up in Nocatee, and the whole place was outlined with golf carts around the Central Park, they call it there, but they were all in their little golf carts sitting side by side. So here maybe they lost their cars, but hopefully we can give them a golf cart or a scooter or something. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you so much for being here today and talking with us about seniors and protocols with driving and how to deal if you have lost a loved one with dementia. Could you maybe just repeat a little bit of that? If you have a loved one that has dementia, you can actually notify you guys in advance if something ever happens. And and you have the dogs. I remember Daisy May, one of the dogs.
Yep.
Yep. So you guys actually have a lot of resources now to be able to track that person down. If we could just kind of end with that, just so people remember.
Yeah, so we have a community engagement team. We call them PACE, basically. So we also have a care unit too, which basically if they just deal with the elderly here in St. Johns County. Again, not on the criminal element, just simply the elderly here. So there's a lot of programs we have here and a lot of partnerships we have for with profit and for not for profit. I challenge people to get involved, which is there's a group here called SPIN in St. Johns County, which is basically our senior provider information network. But also too, here in the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office, we have scent kits, which we actually give to you. They're free, which help you basically freeze or preserve a scent of your loved one that is elderly, that may go missing, or maybe is the early signs of dementia or Alzheimer's. And then also too, of course, we have our Safe Track program, which basically is a GPS system that you borrow from us per se. And then, of course, if your loved one goes missing, you call the non-emergency number and we go to work on finding them. So there's a lot of programs we have here at the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office. We just challenge you to reach out to us, call the 824-8304 number and ask for our community engagement team. Or if they want to, they can directly email me and I'll get them to the right services. But again, we're here. We can also, if you can flag a loved one in our computer. So if you have a loved one that has some type of mental capacity issues, you can reach out to the sheriff's office, and then in our system, we will actually flag them, meaning that, let's say your elderly loved one goes missing and then they're flagged in the system, and maybe what some things that we do or don't do. Some are actually marked and they even say they don't like being approached by a uniformed deputy sheriff. Great. We'll send a plainclothes deputy sheriff there. So again, just one of those little things we can put in our system to bring your loved one home safely.
That's great. It sounds like you guys have so many wonderful resources. And I love the range of the high technology to just the good old bloodhound.
Yeah. Good old fashioned police work.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for all you guys do and for the risk and the wonderful training and all the hours that you guys put in. It's really paying off. Thank you so much for everything that you do. And thank you for being here today.
We appreciate you and thank you for supporting us. It makes it easy when a community loves you.
Oh, absolutely. You've been listening to the Elder Law Hour, and we will be right back.
Are you approaching retirement or entering a new chapter of life? Now is the time to consider critical decisions that impact your future and the well-being of your loved ones. As you navigate this transition, ensure you've secured your legacy through proper estate planning. Don't fall into the common misconception that you and your spouse can make decisions for each other in times of legal incapacity without a plan in place. Without proper estate planning, you risk a probate judge making decisions for you, which can be costly and cumbersome for your spouse. Protect your assets and ensure they align with your unique circumstances and objectives. Avoid the default state laws that may not reflect your wishes and could lead to unintended consequences, such as disinheriting your spouse or forcing them to litigate your estate. You also may be considering the possibility of a new relationship after the loss of a spouse. It's essential to enter these relationships with clarity, safeguarding your assets and preserving existing family ties. A premarital agreement becomes crucial in these situations, providing legal protection and clarity. When it comes to your children, thoughtful estate planning is key. Protect their inheritance from squandering, divorces, lawsuits, and bankruptcies. Your hard-earned wealth should be a source of security, not vulnerability. Additionally, plan for long-term care, a significant consideration as you enter retirement. Secure a long-term care insurance policy while you still qualify, and explore alternatives that can convert into life insurance if not needed. Statistics show a 70% likelihood of requiring long-term care after the age of 65, making proactive planning essential. Our team can guide you through this process, helping you replace impersonal state-written plans with a tailored approach that safeguards your assets and family. Don't overlook estate planning as you approach retirement. Book a call with us today to secure your future with confidence. Visit emilyhickslaw.com and book a call today. We'd love to help.
Welcome back to the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks, and I am here with CPA Charles Taverna, and we are talking all about estate taxes today and gift taxes and also inheriting retirement accounts. So Charlie, thank you for being here today. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Emily. Great to be here.
Great. So we have an incredibly large estate and gift tax exclusion amount for 2023, right? I mean, this is really a historically ginormous amount of money that you can leave to your heirs or gift over to someone, because a lot of times when people come to me for planning, they haven't planned since maybe 1990 something. And they are blown away when I tell them that they have about $12.92 million that they can either leave tax-free or gift during their lifetime. And they cannot believe it because they thought it was like 600,000 or $1 million like it used to be. So let's talk a little bit about that. So it's a crazy amount, right? And that's just per person.
Yeah, that's right. So if it's a married couple, that 12.92 million jumps up to 25.84 million that you're able to exclude from your estate, for tax purposes at the federal level. And this was something that came in during the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act back in 2017. And the reason we're talking about this and, trying to message this out to folks on the airwaves is because the exclusion is set to expire at the end of 2025. So starting in 2026, if Congress doesn't act, because it's basically, if there's no action by Congress, these amounts will revert back to 7 million or 14 million for married couples. So there's a very significant gap in there. So if people out there listening have large estates, now is an opportunity over the next 2 years to take advantage of these very large exclusions, to keep in mind, that it's within the liquidity that you're comfortable with. I mean, don't try to go, just try to take advantage of these to the max and, leave yourself not able to meet your current obligations.
Right.
So it's very important to work with your financial advisor, work with your CPA, work with your lawyer to figure out what you're comfortable with and how best to take advantage to the full extent of these exclusions.
Yeah, because I have a client right now that came to me with an idea that his wife recently died and he has a $1 million house, an investment property that he doesn't want to manage anymore. He doesn't want to deal with it. He just wants to sell it. And then he wants to gift the money to his 2 children. And immediately what pops up, I always think gift tax first. I think, oh, wait, there's that, because the gift tax is, you can give someone up to 17 for this year. It's 17,000, right? It went up from 16,000 from last year. $17,000 you can give tax free that you don't have to file a gift tax return for. I wanted to be clear too, just as we're talking about that. One thing that I think people are really confused about is when you give someone a gift. Let's say I am giving you, Charlie, a gift of 15,000. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Well, actually, let's go over the amount. Let's say I'm going to give you $20,000. I pay the tax on that gift, right? I mean, you're not the one that's paying the tax. It's the giver, not the givee, correct?
That is correct. The burden of paying any gift taxes falls on the giver.
Yeah.
And it's their responsibility.
I don't think people realize that. So
yeah, well, it's so it's their responsibility to file that return appropriately. Pay any taxes that are due, or make sure that form is filed so that if they do have a large estate, that gift will go against their exempt amount. And that the estate tax when it finally comes in will be paid appropriately or measured accordingly.
So all of those gifts add up to your lifetime exclusion, right? So that's kind of what we're talking about now. So going back to my scenario with the client that has the property, he, let's just say for math purposes, it's not going to be this easy. Let's say he receives $1 million from the sale of his property. He gives his 2 children $500,000 each. Okay. So if he wanted to do that with the estate tax exemption that's so high, you're able to do something like that, right? And then you put that in your tax return for that year How does that work from a practical standpoint? Now he's used up $1 million of his exemption, right?
Right. That's correct. He's used up a portion of his exemption, plus he will have to pay taxes on the proceeds of the sale based on whatever basis he has in the property, meaning whatever costs he's had in the property, which would establish his basis in that property. You start with that basis, and then so let's say we'll just say for the purpose of this, he paid $500,000 for the property. Now he's going to sell it for $1 million. Well, if that was a rental property he wasn't using as his personal residence, he's going to have to pay tax on the $500,000 difference between his basis and the sales price that he's receiving. So maybe there's no gift tax in this scenario, but it's kind of getting two hits, especially if he has a large estate in the end that he's going to wind up passing down. He is using up part of his exclusion, plus he's paying tax, capital gains tax on any gain on that sale. Kind of two bad guys in that scenario, I would say.
Yeah. So let's flip this scenario. Let's say, okay, we convince him to hold on to it and let the kids inherit the property. How does that change the scenario for him and for them? So for him, obviously nothing really changed. He doesn't, doesn't get the benefit of, I guess, giving the gift during his lifetime, which I can understand from a personal note. That would be really nice that, to actually see the gift being given instead of, after you're dead, like, who cares? You don't see anything, you don't reap any, enjoyment out of giving that away. But I mean, I can see on the personal side, how you would want to do that. Or if there's a scenario with the children that comes up that one of them, needs some money, or perhaps they both could use it. Who knows? But what does it change for them?
Well, in a scenario where the property is held on to until the person, is deceased and their heirs inherit the property. In that scenario, if we talk about that same $500,000 basis in the property, if the value at the time of person's death is that $1 million we discussed, well, then the heirs then have $1 million basis in the property in a concept that is called step-up basis in the tax code. So the original purchaser's basis no longer applies, and the fair market value of the property at the time of death becomes the new basis. And if that basis is $1 million and the heirs then immediately sell the property upon inheriting it, they will have no gain to pay taxes on. And they could potentially even have a loss on selling the property because of certain expenses of maybe setting the property up for sale, maybe slight improvements, or maybe put some paint, some little things, or even other costs of selling the property, such as your real estate agent's commissions or, lawyers' fees associated with the sale for titling and such.
Yeah. There's always a lot of fees when you sell.
Yes,
and a lot of fees. Always a lot of stuff you have to do too. So
there's a lot involved, and even and if the property is held on to, it just gives it more time to appreciate. That's another benefit. I mean, real estate prices do fluctuate; they go up and down, but over the long term, the trend is positive. You have even more time for that property to appreciate, and again, the heirs will receive the step-up basis. And if sold close to the time that the inheritance happens, they could have no tax liability at all, or if they have extra expenses, they could have a capital loss on the sale, which would actually reduce their tax liability.
So basically, you're saving if he doesn't sell and he just leaves it to them, and he won't have any of that capital gain. So the capital gains is really going to be the big cost on that one, right? Yeah. For him. And then that's going to take up part of his exclusion. And then for them to inherit a property, and they get the step up basis in the property, which is really, I mean, when you're talking about that, a nice property, a nice sized property like that, that's a big deal. That's a really, really big deal. Because I do believe that for that family, that's a quite a significant jump. So
I mean, you can, and the advice I always give to clients, especially if they own real estate and they own very good real estate, nice properties in good locations, I mean, there is no reason to ever sell it.
Just hang on to it.
Just hang. I mean, that would be and that it's easy to say that, but it's like that's the goal. That's how to orient yourself. Then orient yourself that way, and then make changes as life happens.
That's really, I mean, I love that, because it is really if you're looking at wealth building strategies for your family, if you're looking at, legacy planning, things like that, like really passing on generational wealth, that is the way to do it, right? I mean, if you're selling everything and paying capital gains and paying all these taxes, you're really cutting into such a huge portion of what could have been left tax-free, right?
I agree with you 100%, because I would even go as far as to say, yes, though, the heirs inherit the property. Also, do not sell it.
Right.
Don't sell it immediately. Hold on to it also. I mean, maybe you will have heirs in the future if you have the means. If you have the means to keep up the property, make the small investments in it to keep it going. Like you said, for generations, for that legacy wealth generation. That's
Absolutely.
the way to do it.
Yeah.
And the only thing I would say is that there's a possibility that the law could change, step up basis could go away, or maybe it could get better. Who knows? But at this point in time, that's the best advice, and that's the way people should orient themselves, in order to build that generational wealth.
I agree. I think that's such a great point. And so let's talk a little bit about, what about retirement accounts? If you're inheriting a retirement account like an IRA, there's been a lot of significant change with that recently as well, correct?
Yes, that also is correct. So we talked about the Tax and Jobs Act from 2017, which affected these exemptions for estate and gift taxes. But it was the 2019 Secure Act, which changed the rules for non-spousal IRA inheritors.
Right. So if you're leaving it to your child or another beneficiary, that's not your spouse.
That's correct. Yeah. Typically is the children, but like you said, it could be other people. And the big change that occurred was that you used to be able to kind of hold on to those IRAs and and use them for the long term, as long as pretty much you wanted to. But for those non-spousal individuals, they will have to take the money out of those of an inherited IRA within 10 years. If it happens to be a traditional IRA that you've inherited, the distributions, taking out money from those accounts is subject to tax. And if you're not 59 and a half years old, it could even be subject to a 10% penalty.
So let's just put this into context. Let's say you have a person who is working, let's say they're making a $60,000 salary. Let's just say a $60,000 salary a year, and their parent died and left them an IRA. And that IRA has $1 million in it. And that has to all be distributed within 10 years. And then the beneficiary, so my friend who's working, having the $60,000, their salary is $60,000, you are now paying taxes on that distribution as well. How does it work for that person?
Well, yes, for that person,
increasing their income for their income taxes.
Yes, exactly. It's going to increase their income for their income taxes because distributions from a traditional IRA went into that IRA pre-tax. So when it comes out, that the income and any gains within that account are taxed. So that person who inherits that IRA will pick up those funds as income, and pay taxes according to their their effective tax rate, depending on
that could push you up into a higher tax bracket, right? So
that's correct.
Yeah. So that's interesting. And there's, is there anything you can do to minimize or mitigate that situation?
Yes, we've been talking about the traditional IRA. There is also the Roth IRA.
Okay.
And I give advice to all my clients to use the Roth IRA vehicle, because the money goes into your IRA is taxed before it enters a Roth IRA. Therefore, when money is distributed or taken out of that Roth IRA, it is not subject to tax. So if someone does, contrary to the scenario we have been talking about, if let's just say instead of a traditional IRA, that was a Roth IRA, then distributions over the 10-year, that 10-year time frame we spoke about for that $1 million, as that money comes out, it would not be subject to tax.
Okay.
Not taxable to the person that inherits it. So another concept that has come up is for maybe older folks who had been contributing to a traditional IRA for quite some time, over their working careers. Some have started to maybe roll some of those funds into a Roth IRA,
right,
before retirement, in order to relieve the tax burden for the people that would eventually inherit their account.
Yeah, because this is the law, right? Now as of 2019, do we see, we can't predict the future. I know that so much changes politically and, who knows what's going to happen in the next few years, but, this is something new. This isn't traditionally, this has not been taxed in this way, and you haven't had this mandatory payout. So, what do you think? Do you think this is something that's going to stick around for people? I know we have to plan according to what the law is right now, but I wonder, if that's something that's going to stick, because it does really, it is a bit of I don't know. It's not great for some of my clients that are inheriting IRAs right now.
Yes, well, and doing those Roth conversions, as I mentioned, may not always make sense for people, but it is something that's out there. Now, the way I see it is tax rates are at historic lows. If you look over the history of the country, our tax rates are historically low. So, unfortunately, I think, for my generation, I think we will be paying higher taxes in the future. I think tax rates will be higher in the future.
Yeah.
So there's really not, and so I don't really see Congress, passing legislation in order to make this time frame longer, or allow individuals to inherit these traditional IRAs and then not pay these big tax bills on them. But
yeah, because we probably need to drum up some more money in our country.
Yeah,
for the government, not so much focus on other things. But anyway, yeah. So I think, if you can convert, maybe take a look at that with your CPA and with your financial planner and your attorney, correct? That's really, I think that's a great piece of advice, because if that's something you can do, then perhaps you can minimize that burden for the child or the beneficiary that's going to inherit. So we're out of time for now, but Charlie, if someone wants to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. You can search for me, Charles Taverna. You can also email me at charlestaverna@gmail.com, or drop me a line at my phone number, 732-766-1164.
Thank you so much. We will put Charles's information in elderlawhour.com if you want to head on over to the website and take a look and find out more about this episode and Charles. Thank you so much for being here today.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me, Emily.
Thanks. And we will be right back.
Are you ready to invest in real estate without the headaches? Look no further than investjacksonville.com, your trusted partner in turnkey real estate investments. With over 18 years of experience, our process has been fine-tuned, and now we're opening up our team to other people just like you. At investjacksonville.com, we're selective about who we work with because we believe in delivering the best. Our dedicated acquisition team scours the market to find the finest properties, while our skilled construction and maintenance team ensures every detail is taken care of. From new roofs to granite countertops, HVAC systems to plumbing and electrical, we leave no stone unturned to make sure there's no surprises. We're in this together with our investors for the long haul. With our first-year guarantee, we put our money where our mouth is. We guarantee your rental rate for the first year, giving you time to build reserves and budget for any surprises that may come your way later. We believe in our construction team and our tenant placement team, which is why we offer this unbelievable guarantee. We're committed to your success and peace of mind. We're passionate about making it simple and easy, and a no-brainer for others to get started investing, because we know what real estate can do for people to reach financial freedom. So if you're ready to invest with confidence, contact Invest Jacksonville today at 904-536-3000 or visit our website at investjacksonville.com. Let us show you why there's nobody quite like us. investjacksonville.com, your authentic partner in hassle-free real estate investing. Contact us now.
Welcome back to the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks, and I am here today with Jim Kowalski, who is President and CEO of Jacksonville Area Legal Aid. Jim, thank you so much for being here.
Happy to be here.
So today I'd like to talk a little bit about some issues that are facing our elders and the types of abuse and the scams that we're seeing coming around nowadays. It feels to me like it's just exponentially increasing year over year, as, you know, well, obviously with all of the technology that we have, and as seniors are becoming more and more familiar and adept with getting on Facebook and getting on all of these platforms, there's just a lot to look out for. And I think when you have aging parents, it's something that you really worry about a lot. And if you're caring for an elder loved one, it's certainly something that I see a lot in my practice, as, you know, the younger generation trying to look out for the older generation as we move into these very strange technological times. So I'm assuming you guys probably see quite a bit of this in your practice as well, correct?
Well, and I can certainly sympathize with the, you know, talking to your older parents. I more than once have told my dad that I'm pretty sure he was at my law school graduation and he knows what I do for a living. And maybe he or my mom could have called me a little while ago before whatever it was got to the point where they needed to call me for real.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think part of what we struggle with as our seniors age, COVID certainly made isolation worse. And so you have folks who are struggling to hold on to a sense of privacy and a sense of what they had before. But it's more important than ever to include your family in some of these discussions, especially when it comes to technology, because you'll tell your folks not to respond to things on the TV or things they get over the phone or things they get through email, but they're trying to not be as isolated. You know, there's a sense of reaching out. I had a case not long ago, for example, where a senior in a reverse mortgage had been scammed over the TV. He had bought some things over the TV, and his son said, "Dad, you don't respond to things that you get in the mail or over the TV, etc." Mm-hmm. Well, this company, his mortgage servicer hired to make sure he was still in the home, sent him a postcard that said, "Do you still live in your home?" Well, he didn't recognize the company. He was trying to listen to his sons, and he threw the postcard away. Well, a little while later, he got sued for foreclosure for not living in his home.
Oh, no.
Because he didn't return the postcard. And of course, the bank, being like a bank, served him in the home. And that wasn't enough of a clue that he still lived there. So we had to come in and represent him.
Oh, wow.
Obviously won the case because he didn't not live in his home. But, including your family, I've had more than one conversation with seniors where they were telling me things that they didn't want to tell their kids.
Sure.
And I remember one woman in particular who needed a little bit of money each month to make her loan modification work and stay in her home. And she said, well, I can't call my daughter and ask for money, even though it was a very small amount. And I said, well, you're going to call your daughter and you're going to have one of two calls. Either I need a little bit of money each month so I can stay in my home, or can I sleep on your couch?
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Right. Which call do you think your daughter's going to appreciate? So she then spoke to her daughter. Her daughter was happy to loan her this very small amount. It was less than $100 a month that we needed to close the gap on the loan modification. And she actually lived out the rest of her life in this house that we saved for in Clay County. So
wow.
I think that's part of the struggle we have as dealing with our aging parents. Everybody's going through it, but you're right. The scammers make Florida ground zero.
Absolutely.
Everything you can think of that can be perpetrated on our seniors happens here. So, but it's just important to keep that dialogue with your family open.
It truly is. And it is kind of the perfect storm right now, like you mentioned, with people have become more and more isolated. And it's an issue that seniors have had, not just since COVID, but, with a lot of times. I mean, I think the number one issue is really when they lose their transportation, they're stuck at home and you're really relying on other people to either, pick you up and take you places or just come see you. So that's a really hard transition. And speaking of hard transitions, it's also, I think, as a parent, it has to be rather difficult to start listening to your children for advice, because you are, for so many years, you're on the other side of that. And, with my parents as well, I mean, I finally got them to do an estate plan. And I'm like, right. I do this for a living, right? And I do this for many, many families, and I can't get my own family to plan as much as I want. I can see how just everything that's happening is sort of the perfect storm right now for seniors. And it's really hard to help them. I mean, especially too, the issue of cognitive ability. I mean, that's one of the biggest struggles I could imagine, is because you don't really know when it's happening a lot of the time, because people change, as they retire, people change. They're not as active as they used to be. And, perhaps their interest changes, or they go through some changes with their interests. And it's really hard to identify, those early signs of any kind of cognitive disabilities. It's certainly a challenging time for us. And
it's really important to see a lawyer such as yourself go through that process when it's not an emergency, right? So much of this is sort of staying 10 years ahead or 5 years ahead, because if it's an emergency surgeries aren't the best. We do estate planning at Jala. We have private lawyers such as you come over and assist seniors in basic questions. Right. But it's always better to do it when it's not an emergency, and make that time to sit down with your family and ask some basic questions. Where do I want to go when I no longer can drive? Right. Have I linked up to Elder Source, which can help coordinate rides for me? Have I got some basic paperwork in place? Not during the emergency, 10 years before the emergency. And it is really hard to hit that sweet spot and plan for it.
It absolutely is. I always tell people, come see me sooner rather than later. We do not want to be planning during a crisis, but it happens. And certainly if you are in crisis, there's a lot we can still do for you. So, certainly give us a call then as well. But let's talk a little bit about, some other types of elder abuse. With the financial strain that we have going on in our country right now, if you're a caregiver and you're living for perhaps an elderly parent or something like that, and, I've seen a lot of people have to give up their jobs to do that job. And it's a huge financial strain on people. And unfortunately, something that is a result of that is physical abuse and perhaps mental abuse. Are you seeing these cases in your practice, Jim?
So what we try to do is work with the different agencies that all coordinate through ElderSource being our local area aging agency, and they coordinate with Meals on Wheels, with respite caregivers who come to the home, with caregivers where folks drop off seniors in a day facility, for example, a day respite facility. And so a lot of what we do is we train those sort of first responders, the people who are going into the homes, so that they can spot some issues, so that they can particularly be aware of financial abuse, of the senior complaining that they're being shut out of their own decision making, for example, even if they're lucid but not mobile. So a lot of our work is with that. So we do get the referrals then from those agencies who say, or from the ombudsman, like we talked about before, who are going into nursing homes, where they're having that interaction with the senior and they're spotting some signs of abuse. Yeah. And then sometimes other family members, right? You'll go in, you'll come home for Thanksgiving, or you'll come home for Christmas, and you won't have been around, say, your sibling taking care of your mom for a while. And then you'll come home and you'll see, oh, there's some stuff going on. This doesn't seem to be working like we hoped.
Right. And you mentioned, you touched on financial abuse. And I think that's a big fear for people that are preparing or signing a power of attorney. I mean, people are really afraid of that document. And I totally understand why. I always argue it's the most important document that we sign in an estate plan, because you are giving someone the power to essentially step in your shoes and make some financial decisions for you. So, we do see a lot of issues with that. I do see a lot of new people creep into families, and then, it's a new friend that they have that, along with the isolation and all of the things that are happening, it leaves our elders vulnerable, and new people can creep in and, oh, I can help take care of that for you. Or perhaps it's somebody that comes to the house regularly. Like I've also seen it where it's the housekeeper and things like that. They want them to be the power of attorney now and not, the son or daughter. And I'm thinking, oh goodness, how has this evolved? Right. But yeah, you do have to be careful and really keep your family and your loved ones as close to you as possible. But so if one does need help from legal aid, how does somebody qualify for that, Jim, if someone needs your help?
So generally it's income qualified, right? 200 to 250% of the federal poverty guidelines. What we often refer to as the ALICE budget, ALICE budget that United Way tracks. It's about 43% or below for Duval. So that's almost every other one of us in Duval County sort of qualifies for civil legal aid. And they can reach us either through the website, jackslegalaid.org. One thing that I didn't mention before is the website also includes our calendar. So our estate planning nights, bankruptcy clinics, consumer clinics, family law clinics, all those are tracked on our calendar at jackslegalaid.org, or they can call us at 356-8371.
I encourage you to check out that calendar and use as many of the resources available to you as you can through Jack's Legal Aid. I myself got some excellent training when I was a young lawyer there. They have a wonderful program to help young attorneys get their bearings in estate planning or probate in whatever field that they're going into. And I am truly grateful for that, because that was very, very helpful for me. And I know that they can also help you as well. Jim, thank you so much for being here. I think that this has been very helpful for our seniors and, what to look out for. And perhaps if you're a caregiver out there, make sure that you're having those hard conversations with your loved ones. Thank you so much for being here today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks, and we will be right back. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks. If you'd like more information, please visit us at elderlawhour.com, where we have all the information about this and other episodes and links to all of our guests and the information that they've provided from the show. Thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you next week.
Thank you for tuning in to the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks. Join us this and every Saturday for the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks.